it was time for us to stop at the Home Depot to get some supplies to create some epoxy tumblers. First things first, we needed some color in this project. So we grabbed us some cans of Rust-Oleum for our tumblers, some Gorilla Glue, and then we browsed around for a few things to help us clean up our mess. So we grabbed some acetone, some painter's tape, and this little doodad that is a PVC 2-inch donut in the plumbing section. I wanted to use this to secure my tumblers onto my rotisserie rod. Next, we went and grabbed us some 3/4 inch dowels to help with our turner, and a 2x4. Of course, I didn't want to have to do any of the work, so I grabbed a pre-cut 2x4. Let them do the work for us. Now it was time to check out and head on to our next location. Look at all that supplies we grabbed. What's a little shopping without jousting? Tumblers away! Well, it was a little slippery with flip-flops, so don't try that at home. So now we find ourselves at Hobby Lobby. This is where we get all our crafting supplies. So I grabbed some spray adhesive, some different colors of glitter, and boy was this a hard decision to make here. I grabbed a little bit of fine glitter and a little bit of a chunky glitter. We're just going to grab us some casting epoxy from Hobby Lobby as well. So here we go with this. Now comes the hard part, choosing which color you're going to use. I think I got enough, right? So our first step is going to be to spray paint our tumblers with some of that Rust-Oleum spray paint we picked up at the Home Depot. I'm going to create a nice ombre effect by layering 3 different colors from bottom to top of my cup. You want to make sure your tumbler is nice and clean for this step. I just wiped mine with some alcohol to make sure I was going to have a good bonding surface for my spray paint. And then I just kind of gradually spray, feathering out the ombre effect on my tumbler. You probably want to wear a mask doing this step. I did not do it at this step, and I wish I had used the safety precautions of using a mask. So once that dries, we're going to do a hydro dip. So to achieve the hydro dip effect, you just want to get a 3-gallon bucket, 5-gallon bucket, whatever you have on hand, and spray some different layers of spray paint into water. Once it's in there, you just simply dip your cup slowly while rotating to get this interesting marbled effect. Make sure that dries before you move on to this next step of mixing up the epoxy. The epoxy is a 2-part procedure. You're going to mix equal parts of hardener with equal parts of resin. We just use these small solo cups and measure to the bottom ridge with both the hardener and the resin. Once we are sure that we've got equal ratios, we then take a popsicle stick and stir it. You do not want to stir fast, so here's an example of what not to do. This is going to create air bubbles in your resin. You want to try to avoid air bubbles at all costs, and to do that we need to stir slowly. So don't make the mistake that we did, and make sure you're stirring your resin nice and slow. The next thing we're going to do is pour our resin over our cup while it's spinning on our cuptisserie. You can use a gloved finger to spread out the resin, or you can use a silicone brush to spread the resin to get an even coverage all over your tumbler. If you wanted to do glitter or any other finish other than the hydro dip, then you would do that before you apply this resin coat. The cup pictured here has actually got material applied to it. So with the fabric, we just applied Mod Podge all over the cup and applied the fabric over it and allowed it to dry. Once it was dry, we applied the epoxy. Now that we've applied the epoxy, we want to make sure we remove air bubbles by using a heat gun to pop any of the bubbles that you may find in your epoxy. Do not get too close with the heat gun because you don't want to scorch your design. Also, too much heat will cause the resin to reliquefy and fall off your cup. So you want to be about 5 to 8 inches away from your cup when using the heat gun. Now is the waiting game. So for 4 to 6 hours, your cup needs to spin with your epoxy. Here's an example where I used vinyl on my hydro dip. I also used electrofoils to get gold flakes on my design. So once I've done my first coat of resin, I then do my vinyl, my glitter, or whatever extra sparkle I want to add to my design before I add my final layer of epoxy. Here is an example using the cuptisserie and a silicone brush to smooth out the epoxy. This is my preference. Since I don't like getting that sticky epoxy all over my gloved finger, I prefer to use the silicone spoon. Now that this is my final coat, I'm simply going to wait 4 to 6 hours while it spins on the cuptisserie before I have my finished product. And then voila! You're ready to enjoy your new epoxy tumbler. Make sure these are hand washed. They are not dishwasher safe. And now that we have them coated in epoxy, they are now UV resistant, waterproof, and beautiful. I hope you tune back in next time for another tutorial on how to make a hydro dipped cup from start to finish. We'll also be posting videos on how to do a full glitter ombre tumbler as well. So keep tuning back in as we tackle the different tumbler techniques when making epoxy tumblers. See you around.